focus should be on rebuilding, giving the people of Fiji basic infrastructure, such as adequate health, facilities and services, access to safe and clean drinking water, and sustainable educational services. We are heavily constrained. Mr. Speaker, sir, I therefore support the appointment of a fiscal review committee and the National Economic Summit in the spirit of transparency and consultation. On the coalition vision, Mr. Speaker, sir, there is goodwill amongst our people in the international community. This is not necessarily driven by politics, but a renewed sense of optimism that things have changed. As is actually stated, our mission is to build unity and trust, and we truly intend on doing so. The principles of Christianity will remain the foundation of our policies. We will work humbly with others for the common good. We will defend the rights of the poor and needy and give unconditionally to the vulnerable. We will love our neighbors. Mr. Speaker, sir, one of my commitments has always been to give tourism and civil aviation sector the stature they deserve. Here we are talking about a sector that contributes 40% of our GDP, a sector that supports thousands of jobs and livelihoods. Unfortunately, the previous administration did not see the importance of these key sectors and reduced two very critical arms of government, tourism and civil aviation, to mere government departments, clustered with many other departments. Under this government, this has changed. We have restored the Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation as a standalone entity that can act as a better support system to the private sector. On tourism numbers, Mr. Speaker, sir, I strongly support His Excellency's statement that in the short-term economic outlook, supporting tourism will be critical. That is a reality. Fiji's economic recovery continues on the back of a strong tourism rebound. In 2022, our visitor arrivals surpassed expectations, reaching 71.1% of 2019 levels, underpinned by the Australia, New Zealand and the US markets. In December last year, Honourable Speaker, we recorded the highest number of Australians in history in a single month. Mr. Speaker, sir, I come from the industry and I know how challenging the pandemic would have been on the operators. So I take this opportunity to thank the industry for its sacrifices and the remarkable commitment in getting us through some of our darkest days. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the first few days of taking office, I visited many tourism stakeholders. I can say with a lot of confidence that we are now in a new era of economic development. In the first quarter of 2023, we have exceeded pre-pandemic levels as far as hotel bookings go. Just in the last week of January, the average occupancy recorded was 75%. In 2019, the average occupancy for this same week was 43%. The revenue per available room, or RevPAR, recorded for this week was $305, much higher than 2019 levels. Looking at February to April 2023, top countries searching for accommodation are Australia, New Zealand and the US, with an average length of stay of up to 7 days. So tourists intend to stay longer. It shows, Mr. Speaker, sir, the confidence people have in our tourism and Fiji as a country. As an example, Mr. Speaker, Sir Castaway Island considers 2022 as the best year since beginning its operation in 58 years. This year, they are forecasted to be even better. Nationally, occupancy rates were up 74% in 2022 compared to 68% in 2019, with a higher guest satisfaction. So there is a lot of optimism, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm pleased to share that Fiji Airways forward bookings for the next 12 months is 40% ahead of the same period in 2019. When I met the executive management of Fiji Airways last month, they were recording bookings at an 8% rate weekly. Even with all our markets open, the bookings are better than 2019. This is an unprecedented and historical achievement as our national airline exceeded any and all expectations. Forward plans, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are currently bound by the budget of the previous administration for the most part, but we will continue to deliver. 9 years ago, I stood in this august house and shared my hopes of contributing to the development of our country. At that time, we spoke of some $2 billion in tourism earnings. As the former CEO of the then Fiji Business Bureau, I questioned who the billions were for. I stand by that today as we strive for a more equitable sharing of the billions from tourism. We will no longer confine our ethos on what we can do for tourists, but also significantly what they can do for us. It will be a give and take. On enhancing connectivity, Honorable Speaker, over 90% of visitors to Fiji arrive by air. For us, our national airline carries 70% of arrivals. Mr. Speaker, sir, Fiji Airways will continue to invest in advanced, fuel-efficient, modern aircraft. We are also looking at the addition of 2 new Airbuses, A350s. These aircrafts are the most advanced in commercial aviation and a remarkable addition to a fleet that adds to our reach. Mr. Speaker, sir, with added seats, we have the option to add capacity to fly to routes that are in demand and the flexibility to explore other markets. As His Excellency said, Fiji Airways is expanding its global network, which means that it will continue to invest in new routes. We are already reporting strong numbers since the direct flights to Vancouver, Canada. By April 2020, we will also be returning to Hong Kong, Japan, and Hong Kong. The forecast for 2023 is to carry 2 million passengers and revenue of $1.5 billion in 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, the North American middle income market has a huge potential for us. We are now exploring the possibility of flying to Dallas, Seattle, or Houston without compromising our position on open skies. The national carrier is a 5-star rated airline that is on a journey to becoming world-class, a feat that very few airlines have achieved. Mr. Speaker, sir, our national carrier is our pride. From its inception to the days of episode. Wait for it. Order. Our national airline is our pride. From its inception to the days of Air Pacific and now Fiji Airways. There is this weird belief by Fiji First that they are the only ones who are proud of our airline. We've been proud of it since the days of Air Pacific, Honorable Speaker. We've supported it all along the way. Mr. Speaker, soon we will drop the requirements for vaccination and insurance to enter Fiji. We are a highly vaccinated nation, and this gives us the confidence to take the next step in easing travel. Honorable Speaker, sir, we have a new global brand. We have just launched a new brand where happiness comes naturally. This pays homage to our people, our natural, our rich culture, giving visitors a feel of what it truly means to be happy in our context. Tourism Fiji's website tracking shows 20% lift in traffic and 20% lift in new users since the launch of the new campaign. On driving investments, Mr. Speaker, sir, with an increase in air capacity and strong appetite for Fiji tourism brand, there is a risk of imbalance between rooms and seats. It is a good problem to have, but one that requires a concerted effort to attract investments. At present, we have a pipeline of investments valued at approximately $280 million with about 1,000 rooms inventory that could create hundreds of jobs for our people. That is the power of tourism in Fiji, so we need more strategic investments. Mr. Speaker, sir, we want to connect investment-ready projects to investors, so we have more rooms to be able to attract more visitors. In March this year, we are looking to host the first Tourism Investment Summit in partnership with Investment Fiji and Tourism Fiji. This will be an exclusive gathering of 50 key tourism investors, hoteliers, brands, and associated businesses that gives us the opportunity to attract legitimate investors to boost investments. It is about time we think bigger and act on it. A tourism investment report will also be launched capturing key information that an investor requires to know that Fiji is open for business. At this point, I want to clear the perception of high leakage in tourism. We now own most of the properties in Fiji, Honorable Speaker, in the likes of the Marriott, Intercontinental, Sheraton, Westin, GPH, Holiday Inn, all are now locally owned by the people. In community-based tourism, Honorable Speaker, I want to add that the intent is not to build multi-complex 5 stars all around Fiji. Instead, we want to nurture and support smaller, more community-owned businesses who can add to the pipeline of inventory. A few weeks ago, the Honorable Prime Minister and I met the people of the Azores, Mr. Speaker. In 2016, there were some 38 locally owned businesses in the Azores. Today, there are only 9 remaining. If we bring them back online, which we will do, we are adding to the room bank that we sorely need. Our plan going forward is to support our resource owners and our indigenous people, so they too can have a larger share of the tourism pie. Tourism destinations like the Azores, who have a huge potential, have been somewhat neglected, and we have spoken about this for years in this parliament. To support indigenous Fijians, to support the Vanua, doesn't mean we are going back in time. Indigenous communities have been marginalized to the point of being considered amongst the vulnerable today. What we encourage is the protection and appropriate promotion of indigenous culture, traditional knowledge, the land and waters on which it is based. This way, there is an equitable partnership between the tourism industry and indigenous people. Last week, Honorable Speaker, I was at a UN Development Program event where 8 investment-ready projects are now being scaled up through a Blue Accelerator grant scheme. One of them was the Utonialo and Talanoa treks, who intend to develop Fiji's first ever ocean trail building using traditional sailing knowledge. We are bringing back some of the old ways, and these are the types of products that can complement tourism in the outer islands such as the Azores. Mr. Speaker, sir, as a ministry responsible for civil aviation, we also intend to invest in our airports, especially those in the outer islands. I have met with the chair and management of Fiji airports, and we are looking to upgrade the airport terminals in Lambasa, Nausori, Nandi domestic, and Sabu during the next 18 months. Mr. Speaker, sir, the intent here is to create a level playing field. We want the infrastructure to be built such that it accommodates different aircraft fleets, both the Fiji Link and Northern Air. We need to encourage healthy competition for the sake of not just tourists, but for our people. Mr. Speaker, sir, on displacing tourism, Vanua, our second largest island, needs to get the attention it deserves, and so do the other islands in Fiji. We are one, and we should grow as one. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are now advancing discussions with the World Bank to finance the upgrade of critical infrastructure in the north. I will be soon taking this to Cabinet and to our people of Vanua level. On improving business and private sector-led investments, Mr. Speaker, sir, I wholeheartedly support His Excellency's statement on the coalition government's focus on building confidence and trust with businesses and investors.